Just going to clap. Welcome back to the Small Business Big Marketing podcast, brother.
Hey, good to be back, Timbo.
Now, buddy, I'm super excited about this interview. In fact, I'm champing at the bit. I had a number of questions leading in to what do we got to do from an SEO point of view in 2023, but mate, I'm going straight to AI. I'm going straight to ChatGPT.
Yeah, all in, mate, all in.
It's unbelievable, and everyone's talking about it. So I know it's one of your top 5 things to do in terms of insights and tips this year. So, let's just crack into it, mate. What can you tell us?
Let's crack into ChatGPT.
Explain what it is.
So ChatGPT is a language model that allows AI to kind of construct sentences, construct answers, provide code blocks. Basically, you name it, this AI tool can basically come in and do it. Now, there's a couple caveats, and I'm assuming most people have played with it. Number one, it is the biggest BS champion I've ever met in my life. It can say anything and convince you that it's accurate. And so you absolutely need to fact check it. It's not spitting out facts. And secondly, there's a lot of tech now coming out around detecting AI as well. So it's incredible because it's disrupting industries everywhere. You know, you can provide content with basically a short prompt. You can get your socials spun out for you. You can even create just entire websites, and you can create Snake coded in Python if you want, just with a sentence prompt. I mean, the power's insane.
It is insane, and I went into a very deep ChatGPT black hole last night. And so just to be clear, for those who haven't played with it, and I'm not sure, I mean, outside of those who are in this space, that digital marketing space, I'm not sure it's crept out into the wider world, but it's days away. It's not weeks away.
Yeah.
So for those who haven't used it, you go to ChatGPT. It's some weird website, open.ai or something. Yeah, but it doesn't matter. It will come up number 1 on Google. And you're literally confronted with a screen. It then says new search or something, and you just type into it as if you were talking to a human being. So I've got a conference coming up that I'm emceeing. So I just cheekily typed, hey, write me a 5-minute opening speech with humour for a group of grocery store owners, welcoming them as the MC. It was something like that human, right? And it came back with something that, if push came to shove, I would use. But what it did do is gave me a great foundation to then go and create something that I'd be happy with. It had my tone and personality. And you can keep tweaking back and forth. Oh, can you make it funny? Could you make it as if Steve Martin was writing it?
Yes.
Can you put some black humour in there? It's just wild. And from what I understand, you talk about it's disrupting industries. Even Google, the mighty Google, are a little bit nervous.
Oh, Google's very nervous, Timbo. And especially Bing. There's rumors that Bing Bing are obviously involved with OpenAI, and they're saying in March they're going to launch ChatGPT into the Bing search engine. Now, who knows how true that is? And the big hurdle is, well, there's a few big hurdles. One of them being that inaccurate information that I mentioned, Tim, but the second is the copyright, because it is a language model trained on everyone's content. It uses your content, Timbo, it uses all this stuff. You're not going to be super pleased if you're putting out all this free content and people are using it for free. So that's a bit of a hurdle for Microsoft and ChatGPT to go over, but Google's absolutely looking at what their answer to this is.
How would the copyright point of view, I mean, so what it does, it's just this crazy bit of software that has learnt basically the internet, right? And that's where it's pulling all its information. But how would anyone know, unless it was total 100% plagiarism, that this AI bot, whatever it's called, is actually pulling from my side or your side or anyone else's side? It's not very clear to me. It just looked like a really everything I searched and asked it to do was considered and well thought out and took about 0.1 of a second to deliver.
Yeah, so if there's any unique insight that only you have published on the web and it recites that, it's a big copyright issue. Or it uses any potential terms. But yeah, it's tricky. It's definitely tricky, but there's already tools out there that can detect if something's AI plagiarized or not.
So, okay, so let's look at it from the point of view of a small business owner. You could get application-wise, and then I want to understand, is this good or bad? Application-wise, you want a blog post? You could go, write me a blog, if I'm a plumber, write me a blog post on the 10 ways to unclear a sink, and you've got it within a second. You could have it create social media posts. You could have it create copy for web pages on your website. I mean, sales letters, pitch documents. At what point are we compromising our SEO?
Okay, the absolute bummer in this whole thing, Timbo, when this all came out, I was stoked. I went to the team and I immediately was like, we've got to integrate this. We've got to have some kind of AI offering where we can spit out AI content. And we immediately started testing it. 100% AI content is rubbish for SEO. Google have come out and called it digital landfill. And anything that's kind of going out there, and Google's detecting, which they're detecting very confidently and very easily at this point, is just being treated as rubbish. And in fact, potentially hurting websites. So what we've started doing is similar to you, Timbo, that 80-20 approach where you go, okay, well, can we use AI to give us ideas? Like AI, humans, we get stuck in our brain. What AI can we use to give us a great idea about something? And then we get humans to flesh it out and to write it and to fact check it and to do all that stuff. So that's where that's good. Internal stuff, social media stuff, like speeches. I do some speaking, talking, some work as well, Timbo, and I would be lying if I said I hadn't used a little bit of ChatGPT to sprinkle it up a little bit. So those kind of things that aren't online or can't really be fact-checked if you use ChatGPT or not. Like we send emails to all our new hires. I use ChatGPT for a lot of that stuff. I hope they're not listening. But, all that kind of stuff, it's great. But put it on the internet for SEO, not so good.
How does Google know? Is there code? If I cut and paste out of ChatGPT, is there some code at the back end of it, or Google just making some assumptions?
Not quite, but it follows, like any code, it follows patterns, right? And they've gotten very sophisticated with their pattern recognition of how ChatGPT constructs something and comes up with something. And ChatGPT is not an infinite landscape. If we both ask it the prompt, write a plumbing blog, it's going to come back with a very similar blog. Google can then look at that, use pattern recognition and go, this is just AI.
Yeah, okay.
And as you read it, Timbo, I guarantee as you read it over the next couple of weeks, even as a human, you start going, that's just ChatGPT.
Yeah. It's funny you should say that. 3 hours into my black hole last night, I started to notice a pattern. I was doing certain lists, give me 100 ideas for this, give me that. And it often starts with a paragraph that's sort of an introductory paragraph that says, blah, blah, blah. Then here's the ideas. And then at the end, it sort of summarizes. And so it became pretty clear. There are products coming out. I'm seeing Jasper.ai appear on my feeds all the time, and I'm sure there are many other products that are using AI to sort of deliver this stuff. Again, just be wary. Use it as a kind of...
Well, they all use the same system. So there's ChatGPT, but that's all based on GPT technology. Jasper, all these products are all based on that GPT language model. So it's just like, imagine it like a wrapper. It's the same candy, different wrapper. And so they're all very similar in that regard, and you've got to be wary with all of them for the same reasons. I
tell you what, it's the end of writer's block. Seriously, I mean,
absolutely.
If you're struggling, like you can even ask it to write a book. You can actually,
and people have
bananas.
Yeah, it's great for writer's block. Not as amazing as the writing as I initially thought. It kind of is deceiving, but the writer's block, my God, incredible.
Yes. Well, it'll be a very interesting... It's certainly the year of AI. I mean, this stuff's been around. I mean, I read somewhere where they've been working on it since the 60s. Like the first AI was, being worked on way back then.
Absolutely.
And I'm sure it's no surprise to Google that this is now here. But, like you say, it's got a long way to go. Okay, so that's the lesson there in terms of the first tip for 2023... First SEO tip for 2023 is be aware of AI, chat, its functionality, what it can do, and what you shouldn't use it for if you want to continue to rank well on Google, right?
Yeah. If you're listening to this, you're playing around with it, and you start generating a lot of blog posts, they are guaranteed not going to help you out. If you can use it to get inspiration for blog posts that you write, and I mean you write, absolutely great tool.
Your next point is digital PR for acquiring links is a big thing for SEO in 2023.
Yeah.
I want you to explain digital PR and just remind us, and we covered this on a previous interview you and I have done, but what's the importance of links anyway?
Okay, gotcha. We'll start. We'll go real smooth into that one. We'll go like there's 3 pillars of SEO. Right, there's technical SEO, so that talks about how the website's coded, the page speed, all those different things. There's what we call offsite or backlinks, so links pointing to your website. So other publications, other blogs, other sites linking to your website. It's all about the quality of these links, which I'll go into more detail in digital PR. And then there's the content side. What content, what information do you have on your site that users can see, interact with, that positions you as an expert, an authority, and someone that's worth trusting. So they're the 3 things. Now, digital PR, so backlinks have been around for a long time. You probably, if you're like me, you get 50 of these emails a day in your inbox. All of them are spammy. Now, digital PR is this great revelation. It's come out of London over the past year. I haven't really seen it in Australia yet, and that's what excites me about it. Because as we know, Timbo, most things that take off there will take off here. It's the idea of earning links in a more clever way. Now, during COVID, most publications fired about half their journalists. And so there's only about half as many journalists around, and they're expected to do a boatload of work. An absolute boatload. So when people kind of think, I reach out to journos, I'm not hearing much. It's, like people say, I hear PR companies say this all the time, Timbo, we've got great relationships with journalists. We take them out to dinner, all that kind of stuff. They do not want to go out to dinner. They do not want to pick up their phone. They do not have time. It's not like the old days that people maybe saw movies about. Now it's about constructing stories. So what digital PR is, it's the idea of creating data-driven stories with some kind of embedded widget to your website, so they have to link to you. Because, Tim, I'm sure you would have gotten media coverage and they didn't even link to the podcast, right?
Does my head in. Does
your head in. Absolute the worst. So what you do is you force them to link to you by creating some kind of digital asset that is interactive, and they're forced to link to you because of it. So one such example, we did a campaign for a furniture brand, and we built out a widget on their website, like a calculator, and it basically compared what the difference between sustainable furniture or like hardwood versus like an IKEA or a brand that was less sustainable, and kind of talks about, you basically select, each room in the house, you have a bed, you have a dining room table, blah, 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 whatever. And it spits out how many trees you've saved or not saved and other fun stats around that you can share online. Now, we then go out to journalists and create a story about that using data to pitch to them. They love that. They like the story being written for them because, again, they don't have the time, and they put the link to your site in there. And you can get some crazy, crazy good backlinks just from a tactic like that, from very authoritative sites.
Now, just to understand that, I love that. You are creating, in this case for the furniture manufacturer or retailer, you are creating, was it a survey that generated some new findings that were newsworthy? Yeah. Is that the idea? It
wasn't a survey, but it could have been a survey easily. In this case, we used information that their manufacturers had on how they basically they get their wood, and also how and the ethical ways that it comes about.
Right.
And so that's what the data we use. And that, given that wasn't accessible data, we basically reframed it in a way that was accessible, and you get all this media coverage. It can be fun stuff. We did a campaign with a jock company, an underwear company, and we put in fun information just from their sales data in Google Analytics of how often people would buy new underwear, what new underwear styles were, what were the weirdest styles in each state of Australia.
Right.
And journalists love that stuff. They love picking that up and kind of creating a story.
So just understanding that, what I still don't 100% clear on why the journalist would link back. So if you've got let's say you do a great blog post that says, here's 10 things you didn't know about undies in 2023.
Sure.
Awesome. Bit newsworthy, bit of fun, bit of a column filler. The journo could quite simply go and take the key points of that, go and write the article, and never link to you.
Absolutely.
So where's the incentive for them to link back to that blog post?
That's where that interactive widget comes in, that calculator or something.
Okay.
Because they can't put that on their site. They have to link to that.
Okay.
And that's the art of digital PR.
Okay, so how does a small business owner go about getting an interactive widget?
It's actually very easy on WordPress. You can get these little plugins and you just put in data points and it will create these interactive graphs for you.
Okay.
There's a lot of ways you could do it, or you could just create a little graphic and then say that, have a source on that.
Yep.
There's a few different ways you can do it, but it does work really, really well, and you'd be surprised the kind of coverage you can get.
You mentioned the fact that journos don't want to be taken out to lunch and all that, which I tend to agree with. Although about 3 episodes ago, I had Joshua Del Pozzo on, and he's the Chief of Staff for the Today Show. So he is the guy at Channel 9 across Australia responsible for getting guests, for creating content and all that. Yep. And he was one of it's almost a bit of a unicorn in the sense that he gets a bucket, hundreds of emails a day pitching. He responds to them all. He never sleeps. And he is just one of those guys wound up about getting great content and helping small business owners. So he even gave his email out on the show.
Wow.
So I'll link that episode in the show notes to this one. But generally speaking, journals.
Yeah, I would say he doesn't want a phone call though.
No.
Does he like the phone calls?
He's pretty open. Like, I haven't tested him. Well, the only way I tested him on it was when I first thought about I saw him on my LinkedIn. And I thought, that's kind of interesting. I wouldn't mind, even though he's not a small business owner. I know there's a bucket load of us who all want to get a bit of TV exposure or, mass media exposure. And, he responded immediately, like within an hour, to my LinkedIn, and he's just he's up and about,
Good dude.
Good dude, absolutely. Righto, digital PR for acquiring links. And one thing that really pisses me off is when someone does link, if someone does link back to my website, often they'll just say, click here, and that's the anchor text on the link. Is there any tip for influencing the creator of those links to actually write something that means something to Google?
Not really. To Google, that doesn't matter. To Google, that actually doesn't matter. The anchor text that it uses, click here, as long as it's natural, not best podcast in Australia or something.
Hey, what's wrong with that?
Yeah, I mean, that's fine. But if every link looks like that, Timbo, it looks a little bit sus. As long as it's got the link there, it doesn't matter. As long as it's natural, it's diversified, then that's no problem.
So Google is seeing what's behind the words "click here." I always thought that anchor text had to be descriptive as to what's the link.
Only in the old days of Google.
In the old days.
Yeah, well,
that's where I live. That's why I'm chatting to you about this year. Scary,
2023, mate. Timbo. Keep up, mate. Let's go.
Sorry, mate. I thought we were still in the 1900s.
Oh, mate.
All right, Joshua. Now I'm back in the Today Show. Righto, Has. By the way, we're talking to Harry Sanders from StudioHawk, which is, can I still say you're the #1 SEO agency in the world according to SEM Rush?
According to SEM Rush, yeah.
Mate, we'll take that every day of the week.
We'll take that as much as we can.
And you are very kindly, if people want to find out more, if they're gone, enough, I'm just wanting to get into SEO now, head over to studiohawk.com.au/Timbo, and Harry's made a couple of very generous offers if you want to do it yourself or you want a done-for-you SEO package. Now, has point 3 around insights and tips for SEO in 2023, you're calling it EAT, EAT, New Google Principles for Creating Trust. Love a good acronym, mate. What's this all about?
Mate, this one's another huge one, and this actually is only bigger from AI. So this is what I think Google's answer to AI content will be, and you can listen back to this in a year's time and fact check me. So EAT used to be called EAT, but they've added another E, which is just about basically tying it all together in this element of trust. So it stands for expertise, authority, trust, right? And the whole idea behind it is, instead of AI generated content with no authorship or person on the other end, It wants content generated by experts, people that are authorities in their space and people that can generate trust. So if someone like Timbo writes a piece of content about small business, they want to say, well, Timbo's the guy to write that content. We're going to rank that content a lot higher because we can see Timbo's background, we can see his content, we can see the niches he writes about, we can see that Timbo is all about that. But if they've got another guy, let's say Joe Blow comes around, Joe Blow, doesn't know anything about small businesses, he starts using AI to generate content around small business, they're going to see that and go, well, Joe, mate, all respect, but you don't really know anything about small business. You don't have a small business, you don't know much about it. A lot of this looks like AI-assisted content, but I got Timbo here that knows all about it. So that's what this EEAT is meant to kind of rectify for Google, essentially. It's that experience piece, and that's what that last E is.
Okay, so what they're saying, so as a small business owner listening to this, how do they how do they become an authority? Well, they may well be, in their own little geographical space or whatever, they may well be an authority in their area. I'm assuming you're using me as an example. Google are looking at my website and going, it's a 14-year-old website and he's putting out content every week, and they're somehow going, okay, well, that quantitatively Timbo is prolific. How do they know qualitatively whether I'm any good?
Well, I
hate to be using me as an example, but you started it.
They basically look at it and go, okay, Timbo's website has got good traction, good audience, they've got good content, and it's all about things in this specific niche. So if Timbo, let's say you go out and you write an article about, I don't know, what the best pantry to buy would be for someone's kitchen choice. Google's going to look at that and be like, yeah, Timbo, mate, maybe stick on the small business stuff. Yeah. Because we've got, all these great people that are authorities in interior design, kitchens, all that kind of stuff that can talk about that. So they look at the website and they look at the kind of content you've posted before, the experience of that website, who uses it, and they've got all that data. That's all there, no question. And then they come up with basically that tailor that to users from there. Okay.
Is this back to just creating great content? I mean, it's been around a while now. How is it any different?
We're kind of going full circle if you think about it. We've all gotten a bit clever with how we can do content. Now, the biggest actionable tips I can give you around this is create an authorship page. So when you write a blog post or a piece of content, make sure it's got the author at the bottom and make sure that's fleshed out with a bio about you, your credentials, who you are, all that kind of stuff. Same with your about page on your website. What are your credentials? What awards have you won? Who are you as an individual? It's kind of like Google's trying to, this is a weird analogy, but bear with me. In Australia, we've got this new thing called director IDs, right? And they're meant to tie directors of a company to an entity, so you can't just, Phoenix companies all the time. Google's trying to do something similar where they go, okay, well, Timbo's our guy for this, but if Timbo owns 100 websites, well, we don't really want that. We want to encourage these niches. We want people to encourage being an expert in their particular niche or particular area, and we want to see what credentials, awards, things that they have in that. Like if you think, me for example, I know business and I know SEO. They're the two things that I can speak credibly about. And so that's what Google's trying to put everyone on those little buckets a bit more, so we're not talking about or polluting the internet with information that's not relevant.
Okay, so if hopefully there are business owners listening to this, if they want to embark on this, and it feels like a bit of a long game, I'm just sort of thinking that through. I was talking to someone about content the other day, and my girlfriend Sarah's about to launch a new business, and we were sort of tossing around, is content the way to go, or should she just have some kind of lead generation campaign using Facebook ads and going down that quicker path? And the answer is probably both. Yeah, right. But in terms of where do you start with this content creation in order to create expertise, authority, and trust in Google's mind? I mean, what have we got? We've got blogs, podcasts, YouTube channels, social media platforms, all that stuff.
All that stuff. Basically, blogs are just one element of it. Podcasts, oh, you won, podcast of the year at the Emmys. Congrats, Timbos.
Thank you.
That's a huge achievement. I know, it's a bit of recognition. That's the kind of thing that Google looks at and goes, okay, well, who's that association? Oh, that's a legitimate association. So if you win like the Telstra Business Awards, whoa, okay, that's a legitimate award. This looks like a legitimate business. We're going to give them an SEO boost out of that. And all of a sudden it becomes more encompassing. By being on this podcast, there's probably, in some way, shape or form, I'll probably get some kind of SEO boost out of it. So thanks, Timbo.
Yeah, my pleasure, mate.
And so that's how it all kind of ties back together. So in your blogs, talk about things that you know about. Talk about things that you are the expert in. Try not to spread yourself too thin into topics that you don't really know about or aren't really related to what you do.
It's funny, we talk about blogs. They almost were the beginning of the internet, and they're still just as important today.
Oh, yeah.
Important from an SEO point of view, and important from a helpful marketing point of view in terms of helping your prospects make a more informed decision, important for positioning, important to even help you articulate your message. As business owners, we get so caught up in the day-to-day that we sort of lose sight of, articulating messages. And so, very powerful, the old blog. And I would, in terms of content, I don't know about you, Haz, but if there's a business owner going, well, that's great, there's so many different varieties of content, my view would be play to your strength. So if you like talking to video, do video. If you hate the sound of your voice, write blogs. Is that kind of where you're at, or is there...
Yeah. Look, I think if there's like, obviously, as a small business owner, you're pulled in a million different directions. If there's something that comes naturally to you, great. But like anything, test it. You might love doing video, but you might not get any traction on your video content. And that's when you might need to look at something else. Or, you might love doing podcasts, but maybe you only do a podcast a year. It's kind of play to your strengths. What works for you and what also gets traction.
We're obviously talking a lot about Google and their view on AI. We're now talking about their principles around creating trust. Just give us the 1 minute, 30,000 foot view on how Google works. Just remind us, because it's important to understand the beast.
No, it's good. I actually like this a lot, and we've got a lot of people in the company. There's 60 people now, SEO specialists in the company now, Timbo, crazy. And often we do this exercise to pull them back to the roots. So I'll kind of run you through it. So Google came about as a search engine to help people find things on the internet, because previously you had to type things into the URL bar, and if you misspelt it, bad luck, you won't go on that website. Then a couple search engines came around like Ask Jeeves, and they used, remember those 3 pillars we spoke about before? They used 2 of them. So they used the concept of the technical and they used the concept of the content, but they didn't use the concept of the backlinks. It wasn't until Sergey and Larry got together and they founded Google because they were sitting in a library and they said, what are the best books that we can use for our research? And they said the ones with the most citations. And so citations evolved into this word backlink, and then backlinks evolved into the whole quality of a backlink, and that's where search engines are today. But fundamentally, they are there to link up a user with a good experience at the end of the day, whether that's a website that they can buy something on, whether that's a website they can learn something from, whether it's one of those zero-click searches where, if you search what's the time in London right now, I'm probably not clicking any of those websites, but I am getting results back on what the time is in London. So it's to provide users with a good experience at the end of the day is what search engines do. And as businesses, as SEO specialists, as anyone that interacts with them, we need to think about how we can provide users with a good experience, because that's ultimately what Google wants to do. If you can link up those two things, and we have the same goal in mind. So coming back to all this AI stuff, and this is where it all works, if you're spinning up AI content just for the purpose of ranking in Google, and you don't even stop to think about the experience a user might have reading it, well, you're not really creating anything. You're not really delivering an experience. You're not really doing much of anything. So if you come back and think about, as a user, if I clicked on this, would I be satisfied? Yes. Okay. We're in luck.
Good summary, Haz. And people, that's really worth understanding and replaying if you have to, because when you understand how it works, all this other stuff sort of falls into place. As an aside, and as a user of Google, who isn't, still often disappointed or let down by the search results on page 1. Put aside all the ads, and depending on what you're searching, there's more ads or less ads. But then you get to the organic results, and I'm just surprised at either their lack of relevancy, and it might be geographical relevancy. You know, I'm looking for a pharmacist in Noosa, and it'll give me it'll give me something that's not in Noosa, is where I live. Or the other thing it does deliver. It delivers websites that are just so poorly constructed, full of ads, and just really hard to navigate, and it's a really poor experience. You got any comment around that, or is it just me noticing this?
No. This is a common thing. Users over the past 3 years have noticed this. The satisfaction in search engines has dropped dramatically, mainly due to ads. The amount of ads has increased, and Google's fighting this desperate war because, you know, it was about 20%, I think maybe a couple years ago. Now it's only 15% of people are clicking on the ads. So more and more people are just skipping the ads. And so it's this battle of attrition. And then the organic results, you know, there's a lot of, you know, unfortunately, I'm a part of the problem here. There's a lot of good SEO specialists now, and they're able to get things high that probably shouldn't be. And it's a constant tug of war between these SEO specialists and Google, because historically, you know, I would say SEO was more of a dark art, and people definitely didn't know what they were doing as much, whereas now it's quite scientific, formulaic. You can get creative with it for sure, absolutely. But, you know, if people say, oh, it's more of an art than a science, I would definitely disagree. You can easily calculate what works in SEO. So as such, people are able to get their client stuff higher, whereas maybe sometimes it shouldn't be higher.
Yeah, interesting.
That's deeper thinking for a smarter person than me, Timbo. I'm just there to get clients high.
Good man. Point 4 has on 2023 tips and insights on SEO, specialisation of knowledge trend. What's this about?
That kind of falls into this EEAT thing as well, Timbo. This specialisation of knowledge, and also in digital as well. So historically, and we've spoken about this, I think, offline, Timbo, all these big full service agencies that are doing everything, and how, you know, with all these things that's now happening in SEO, it's become a whole field. It's the same reason you don't have a guy that's a plumber and an electrician, because the fields are just so different and so separate now that you can't have someone that's your SEO guy and your social media guy and your this. So this digital agency model is changing and evolving, and people are going more down specialized routes. So what we're seeing more in our medium and large and even small businesses now is they're appointing a general marketing manager and then getting specialized firms to do the other areas of marketing managed by that marketing person, which I think is quite a clever model, because you get the best of both. You get the best of having an in-house person that understands your brand back to front, and the best of them holding agencies to account, because, you know, agencies, if they don't have someone managing them, they just run amok. And that's, you know, that's that specialization of knowledge. But I think we'll see that in more and more industries where, as there's more and more people are expected to niche more and more down. And it's definitely true for SEO and what we're talking about EEAT before as well, Timbo.
Well, you know, and particularly, I come from a background of mass advertising, having worked in large agencies back in the day. And, you know, back then, you know, it was like, in terms of client solutions around marketing communications, there was, you know, above the line advertising, direct advertising, bit of sponsorship. It was sort of, they were big categories, and you could specialise across the broad board. But marketing has become so fragmented, and as you say, if you can afford to have someone at the front sort of directing the traffic, and then just pulling in specialists on certain aspects that you want to pursue, a much better solution. And it doesn't have to, it's not as expensive as people think. I think people look at this. I mean, I do feel for the business owner that can't necessarily afford a marketing agency, and I've had this discussion with marketing agencies around the place, and, you know, it's a hard business model to crack for the really small business owner. But again, you know, you may have to go to a website like Upwork and outsource it, or whatever the solution is.
Or classic do-it-yourself, learn things. Yeah.
Well, your Hawk Academy, man, is so good for that. And again, head over to studiohawk.com.au/Timbo, and there'll be a link to Haz's Hawk Academy, which is a do-it-yourself SEO solution, and Haz has kindly offered a 20% discount on that. Righto, point 5 has Google crackdown on spam. Finally, shouldn't they just always be doing that? What do you mean? What are you defining as spam?
Okay, spam again. It all feeds into this AI discussion as well, doesn't it?
Yeah.
So spam is AI content, like websites with a bunch of banner ads that aren't useful, all that kind of stuff. Exactly what you're saying before, Timbo. That there's this experience now that that people are saying it isn't as quality as it used to be. And so Google's really trying to come back away from that and go, okay, we need to reduce the amount of spam on this platform, whether that's this AI stuff, whether it's websites that shouldn't be websites, whether it's, just content that doesn't need to be there, or images, or websites that just in general. Like, what's the purpose of this site? Like you're saying to me, how many sites you click on and you're like, this is not what I wanted.
Yeah.
When you search for a coupon for something, oh my God, there are thousands of coupon websites, but I cannot find a single bloody website where a coupon works. Yeah. So Google's kind of coming along into this stuff and going like, nah, enough's enough. We're sick of this. We're going to look at the experience. If people are bouncing from coupon site to coupon site, we're just going to kick you guys out of that index.
Mm-hmm.
That way, coming back to its roots a little bit more about creating experiences rather than getting over-optimized by SEO.
Can you imagine Google disappearing?
I can see it evolving, absolutely. I can see the whole ChatGPT movement changing into becoming more, autocomplete in Google. Mm-hmm. But the problem, and another problem with that is ChatGPT will tell you what you want to hear, in the sense that, like, if you say, come up with an argument on climate change or come up with an argument against climate change, it's going to do exactly that. It's not going to give you sources or citations or those kind of things that traditionally a Google would, or you'd see different points of views. And I think that's a little bit dangerous, especially in the society we are, Timbo, where people will just read the first thing and be like, that's true. And that's what we're seeing with ChatGPT, right? Like, people will paste things and be like, oh, wow, I had no idea that was the case. But ChatGPT, again, remember, it's the number one BS artist that will say anything and make you convinced that it's true.
Mm. We've often done that with media and content. I mean, ChatGPT is just another example where, it used to be whatever you read in the Herald Sun or the Age if you're in Melbourne, well, then that's true.
Yeah.
And then it was whatever you read on a blog post, well, that's true. Whatever appeared on page one, well, that's true. It's just, it's sort of human nature to go down 100%. That path. We're lazy.
We are. Intrinsically, humans are lazy. And it's also like there's so much out there that it's hard to consume all of it.
That's right.
I think it's going to be an evolution. I think that the idea of searching for things, it's just a different way of getting answers. Some informational things will be falling to the wayside because you can just ask ChatGPT, similar to like what you could ask Alexa. Mm-hmm. But obviously, like, an e-commerce journey is still going to be very, heavily driven by people looking at things, trying things on, that kind of stuff. But ChatGPT may be able to help us get more specific. But then there's just going to be SEO for ChatGPT, so that could be a whole new industry.
What's the stats, if you know them, on people going beyond page one? Or are the majority of us completely satisfied with the result we get from a link on page one?
Yeah, it's still like 1.4% of searches go to page two.
Oh, that's incredible.
Very, very few.
I've never seen page two of Google. I just thought there'd be some gif of a tumbleweed rolling down the screen or something.
Yeah, it probably is. I've never been there either, mate.
1.4%.
Yeah, it's very, very low. I think it is increasing slightly just because of all the stuff that's been going on, but it is a dramatically low percentage.
Incredible. I've got some other questions for you, but we've just wrapped up 5 points for making sure your SEO is rocking in 2023. The rise of AI, digital PR for acquiring links, EAT, new Google principles for creating trust, specialisation of knowledge trend, Google crackdown on spam. They're all they're very related. It's like there's a Venn diagram in there somewhere where the sweet spot is just create great content and experience for your users, and Google will somehow figure that out and reward you with improved rankings. I reckon. What's the worst SEO advice you're hearing around the place? It's not necessarily that you've heard, but you speak to a lot of business owners, some who are your clients, many who are not. They hear what you do and they go, "Oh, has SEO, blah blah." What are you hearing?
I still think some of the worst advice. I mean, some of the things I've been seeing on LinkedIn is like, oh, generate a blog post and you can paste 100 blog posts a day. I'm like sitting there like, oh my god, that's awful advice. It's like if you want to tank your website.
Yes.
But I think some of the worst advice I'm still hearing is just around SEO as a field, and they're just like, SEO, you can get quick wins. You do this thing, you'll boost your business overnight. Or, people often talk about SEO as a field like, it's like what I was talking about before, that whole art versus science, and I don't know what my SEO guys do, I don't know how it all works, it's just kind of magic. Well, you understand how your Google ads work. You should understand how your SEO works. You should have an understanding of what is probably a large critical element of your business. So I think that's still some of the worst kind of SEO advice I see flying around, being like, oh, it's not a science, it's just magic. But yeah, certainly all the AI stuff. I mean, that's just, I had a business come to me the other day, Timbo, and they say, well, we've actually sorted out we previously didn't have any content, but now we're doing 10 blog posts a day just by doing ChatGPT. And I'm sitting there, oh my God, you could not be doing anything worse.
Incredible. Well, that's why, I was really keen to do this podcast and have that chat about ChatGPT. And I know we've gone on about it, but it's not going to go away. And we're doing this interview early January 2023. And, by mid-year, everyone will have known about it, and it's worth understanding it, versus, and certainly not, it's not the answer to all your SEO and all your content creation challenges. That is for sure. What's really pissing you off, Haz, about your industry at the moment?
Well, it's really pissing me off.
Too many snake oil salesmen?
Still is. There's still way too many snake oil salesmen. I got to say, it's the first year I feel a little bit better about it. There's a lot less snaky operators. I think a lot of them have kind of disappeared over the past year. I mean, that's not to say that there's none. There's still more snaky ones than there are good ones. But I think there's definitely a movement or a reform kind of going through digital at the moment in kind of how people service, how people do things, what's expected. But what's pissing me off about the industry, probably what's pissing me off is the biggest thing at the moment is just in terms of, probably what's pissing every business off is like getting good talent, finding people that really wanting a career path and to do that. In SEO, I mean, the salaries that you get paid in SEO, Timbo, are bluntly incredibly high because it's such a high in-demand field. And that doesn't piss me off, but the fact that people don't want to embrace that and get involved in it more, that pisses me off.
Yeah, well, you hear that you talk to any business owner, their number one gripe is people, finding good people, retaining good people.
Yeah.
Retaining bad people.
That's it. We've got this problem. We have got the lion's share of SEO specialists in Australia by a long shot. The second largest would be about 20 people. So for us to hire new SEO specialists, it's really, really challenging. We've got a full-time learning and development role in our business where we develop people and do all these things. But trying to poach someone from another agency, it's still at that stage. Unless we take them from London, and we relocate a lot of people from London to Australia, they're not at the caliber that we want them to be at. So our strategy is basically training new people from scratch or relocating people from London.
Why London, and why do you need to relocate? We live in a fairly Zoom-like society these days.
Yeah. Why London? They're the leaders in SEO,
really?
No doubt about it, by a long shot. All of the best kind of thought leaders and all that stuff comes out of London. They understand marketing at a critical level. Like, I think the US are very good at selling. They're very good at selling. But the UK are brilliant at building brands and building an experience. And that's what SEO is. Building a brand and building an experience is SEO. So they're incredible at it. So we bring them over. Why do we need to bring them over? Well, if you're an Australian client and you want to have a meeting with someone at 2 p.m., well, that puts that smack bang in the middle of the night in the UK.
Yeah, right.
Not a lot of people want to be nocturnal. So we have to move them across to Australia.
Big growing pains, Haz. I can't remember how many staff you had last time we spoke, which was, I reckon, what would you say? It was pre-COVID, wasn't it?
Yeah, probably a couple of years ago.
Yeah. So 60 staff. Scaling pains, growing pains?
More just in the sense of the people. The process and the systems actually work better with scale. because the more SEO we do, like it's like that Australian super ad. You know, if you try and do the SEO yourself on the backlink side versus what we can do, we can do more even if you cut out the agency fee. Like, let's say we had $1,000 to spend and we could each get links. We can get X amount of links that are higher quality than the X amount of links you could get, even like factoring in our agency fee. So that's been awesome at scale. But yeah, I think the biggest thing's been people. Like, we've just swallowed up as much talent as we really can in Australia.
Wow. Interesting. Well, that's been awesome, mate. For those who are keen to pursue their SEO right now, like I said, head over to studiohawk.com.au/Timbo. That'll do two things. You can access Harry's done for you packages, which are part of StudioHawk, and get that SEO going for you straight away. Or you can go to or what is it, Hawk Academy, which is a do-it-yourself one. And if you use the code Timbo20, I think you'll get 20% off. But either way, get onto it because it's a fundamental part of your marketing. I know you agree with that, Hez, but you're being biased.
I mean, obviously I'm biased, but I've been doing this now for over a decade, even at the young age I am, and it's just evolving. And every year I always say I'm very excited about where SEO is going, but now more than ever, like how it's evolving, how it's changing, the fundamental parts that it builds. It's almost scary to think of how much of an impact SEO has on a brand, on a business, and I think many people see that already, but it's only going to get bigger.
Couldn't agree more, brother. Thanks for sharing.
Thanks so much, Timbo.